Is this thing on?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Voice Podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Amanda, and today we are doing a bit of an Alumni Spotlight where we get to learn a little bit about one of our St. Lawrence alumni. And today we have with us Molly. How are you doing, Molly?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So tell us a bit about yourself.
So I started at the University of Ottawa right out of high school, and I was in the Bachelor of Business Administration program there. And in my second year, I made the decision to switch to St. Lawrence and finish my degree there. I wrote my CFE in September of 2020 and was accepted into membership in June of 2021. I'm currently working at mp4 LLP in Kingston.
Nice. That's awesome. What were some of your favorite memories from your time at St. Lawrence?
When I was preparing for the interview, I was reflecting back and trying to think what were my favorite moments. And honestly, they were in the classroom. And I think that really just speaks to the caliber of the teachers. And it wasn't just like the material, it's that they made it fun. They were enthusiastic about it. And it was just a welcoming environment.
I definitely agree with that. And I know they've tried their best to kind of move that online, that kind of atmosphere as well, but nothing really compares to being in the classroom. So, what was the search process like for you after you graduated from St. Lawrence? You mentioned that you currently work at MNP. Was that the job you got right out of college?
So when I was at St. Lawrence, one of their elective courses was you could work for an organization and you would submit a project proposal. So I worked for Collins Barrow, which is now the office I'm working for. We've since merged with MMP, and I did some marketing research for them. And although I wasn't actually doing any accounting work, that got my foot in the door. It gave me an opportunity to meet the people at the firm. And then after I graduated, I reached out to them looking for a position as a staff accountant, but they didn't have any positions available right away. So I looked at various job sites, the St. Lawrence job posting board and the Facebook group, and looked for job openings in Kingston for staff accountants and sent in a bunch of resumes. I actually went to the resource center at St. Lawrence to have them look over my resume and try to give me any feedback. I had a couple interviews and kept in touch with Collins Barrow, and a position finally opened up, and I started there in November of 2016.
Nice. So, what were some of the things that you're able to take with you from your experience at St. Lawrence into the workforce and the jobs you got after graduation?
So at St. Lawrence, I think my biggest takeaways was my motivation and dedication to my learning. I'd never experienced that before. I always would try hard kind of the beginning of the year. I feel like a lot of students, and then kind of almost lose interest. But it was just you felt so supported and accountable to your teachers because you knew how badly they wanted to see you succeed. And when you first start off, I found it is really challenging. It's a steep learning curve. So you have to really be dedicated, you have to be motivated. And I also got a sense of confidence in my abilities while at St. Lawrence. And that made it so when I was struggling in my first bit, I knew that I would be okay and that I'd be able to succeed where I was.
That's really awesome. Yeah, the support that we get from our professors here is just incredible. And it's awesome that you're able to kind of carry that with you post graduation for sure. So, based on your experience at St. Lawrence and your experience at Ottawa U as well, were there any college myths that you found were busted for you?
So I was actually looking back at my email today, and the first email I ever sent, I think, was to Greg Libet, wanting to ask some questions about the program. And in my email, I said, would it be disadvantageous at all for me to switch if I'm considering pursuing my CPA designation? And I think, although I think it's going away a bit, I think there's always been kind of a perception that maybe colleges are less, not the same level, less prestigious than universities. And I think for me, the opposite turned out to be true. Just the way my learning style was and the support I felt there, being in a classroom of, some classrooms were like 5 people. And at Ottawa U, lots of the times you're in a room full of 500 people. Well, you can't have 500 people asking questions, but in a room full of 5 people, if everybody had a question, that becomes a lot more manageable. So you get a lot more one-on-one time, I found. And so I think that was kind of a college myth, so to speak, that was debunked for me.
I definitely found that as well, because I was originally pursuing the university path as well. And then I kind of applied to St. Lawrence College like last minute on a whim. And coming here and like experiencing what I wasn't really expecting, because I always thought my learning style was, oh, do the lecture, take the notes, do the lecture, take the notes. But like the experiences that you get in the classroom, the discussions that you get that you wouldn't be able to get in like a big university setting, that's definitely, I think, a good college myth to be busted for sure, especially for people who aren't really sure if college is for them, knowing that other people have had that experience too.
Yeah, and
So,
it made it a lot more engaging. And so I found, like, in the lectures in a bigger auditorium, I kind of would get distracted or become disinterested, where in a classroom of 5 people, you're right up close, it's intimate, and it's way easier to stay engaged.
and the conversational aspect of the lecture too kind of keeps you engaged as well. So you mentioned networking and staying in contact with former employers and stuff. What are some of your experiences within the SLC network? Because networking is a term that we hear a lot, especially in the School of Business. So how would you say that that has been implemented, not only during your time at St. Lawrence, but afterwards? How would you say that benefited you?
The thing that's nice about St. Lawrence is they have a Facebook group. And not only is it for their accounting students, but it's also for their graduates. So that's kind of been something that I could use to stay in touch. And if opportunities came available and they needed alumni, I was always eager to help because I enjoyed my time so much at St. Lawrence. So in the past, I've participated as a judge for the annual case competition. I've also provided support to students that participated in the accounting hackathon. And I've recently joined the accounting program advisory committee. I've also reached out to past teachers for just some advice throughout my professional career, and to provide references for me when applying to other opportunities, such as doing some on the side marking for CPA.
Nice. Well, that's always helpful to know where you can go for help, and hopefully those resources are able to help some other people as well. Is there anything you wish you could go back and do differently with your time at St. Lawrence?
I would try to enjoy my time even more so, in the sense of not worrying about securing a job afterwards. Being in the accounting industry, we're always looking. That's something I found. If someone is looking for a job who would be an asset to the firm, we would take them, regardless of whether we had an opening right at that time, like actively seeking. So I would tell myself not to worry, it'll all work out, and just focus on what you're doing now and not worrying about what you're going to do after.
That's definitely some really good advice. Leading into that, what's one thing you wish you could go back and tell your SLC self? Is that something you think would have changed your experience?
Yes, I think it would have made it just a little bit more relaxing almost. And I would also tell myself to get involved in as many things as possible. I did participate in the intramurals. I did the case competition. I participated in the community volunteer income tax program. But I would just recommend to let their teachers know that they'd be interested in getting involved in any way possible in their area of interest. Because their teachers are a great resource, and there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer, and that can really be what can stand out to a potential employer.
The professors are a great resource for getting involved, because you might not know of some opportunities, and then they'll say, hey, you want to get involved in this? And it might be something that you really enjoy. So that's definitely some good advice as well. What's the best piece of advice that a professor or classmate gave to you during your time at St. Lawrence?
The best piece, I don't know if I ever got like one single best piece of advice, but something that the teachers kind of passed on was just to kind of relax and attack any problem kind of with the best you can and with the tools you have. And I found that really translated to my time in the CPA professional program. When you're given a question, it's so time constrained, and you just need to zone in on the issue and do what you can. And things can seem overwhelming at times, but if you can just kind of go back to the basics and your foundational knowledge on the subject, everything will kind of work out.
That's awesome. So kind of to wrap it up, what is some advice that you would give to some first-year students who are just getting started, or to students who will be graduating this year and kind of entering the workforce?
So my advice to first-year students would be to have fun and really try to set a good base for your coming years. So I definitely think with accounting, I'd like to think of it as a game of Jenga. And if you don't have a good base, everything else might just fall down. And I found when I first started out, like when you were confused about something, if you could go back to the basics, you could kind of find the solution or the right answer, or at least have somewhere to go to. But if you don't know the basics, if you don't have a good foundation, it's hard to build in a way that you really are understanding, and that information is going to your long-term memory rather than just something you're memorizing for a test. My advice for students that are graduating would be, don't be discouraged. And even though times are a bit different this year, the whole world has adapted, and there's still ways to reach out to potential employers. And if you have maybe some time between your graduation and when you get a job secured, there are still opportunities to do virtual volunteers, building up your resume. As I had mentioned before, volunteer is one way that you can really set yourself apart. Although good grades are important, they're not everything, and it's hard to stand out solely based off your grades.
That's some really good advice. Thank you so much, Molly. I know I'll be taking a lot of that advice to heart as we kind of get into this school year, and I hope a lot of you are able to take something with you from this episode as well. Thank you again for joining us, Molly, and we will hopefully see some of y'all in the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, thank you.